Welcome, everyone, broadcasting from the Wraith Game Studio. This is the N3RD podcast. I am your host, Rich Kiefer, and I am joined today once again by Fry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Lance T. Miller.
I got the golden plates.
Gold plates!
And Amber Bay.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, as you heard those two, we were kind of talking about Book of Mormon before going on the air.
It's a little bit of a prelude to an upcoming episode. Boom, boom, boom.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm not going to Uganda.
No, we're not. We're going to Salt Lake City, boy.
I ain't going to Salt Lake City either.
Salt Lake City. So, yeah, we're going to be doing a musical episode at some point in the future.
Never seen a fucking musical, so...
You've seen movies.
I've seen musical movies.
It counts. Because guess what they make those from?
I know.
Musicals!
But I want to see a musical play, like at least one. So.
Well, we're going to be taking you with us.
In May.
Yeah, in May.
But before that, we'll probably do a musical episode.
Make sure you avoid Ghost, because Ghost sucks. Ghost was fucking horrible.
Ghost the musical?
Ghost the musical.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
Is
Oh
it just
my God.
3 hours of that scene?
No.
It would be better if it was.
It really would have when I left. Well, we'll talk about that more. I had to go buy the Blu-ray and rinse my mouth out by watching it twice after watching the musical.
Stay tuned for the musical episode for the Fry rant.
It's bad.
So what are we talking about today, guys?
Hey, back on track. We are talking about comic books.
Comic book.
As we said last week,
They're actually graphic novels.
there is a difference.
In Japan, they are called
If we want to
manga.
get really fucking nerdy about this shit, comic books are single. We got issue. Graphic novels can be a compilation, and then
Got comic strips and newspapers.
we got those too. Yeah, that's what old people
Yes,
read,
the old
and
strippies.
They're all dead, so it doesn't matter.
Bitch, I used to read the hell out of some
Okay.
comic
I
strips.
read Dilbert every morning.
God damn.
That's because it's pretty much a picture of his life.
You have no idea.
Picture of a lot of people's lives. I mean, but the ironic thing is the guy that wrote it and made it never worked an office job in his life.
That's savage.
That's the amazing part.
But aren't stereotypes great? Because he's still accurate.
For that one, they kind of are. But and then of course, like I said, manga, which we are not talking about because that would be a whole new episode
I'm really
eventually.
sad
I think so.
now.
We'll
Yeah.
do an anime and manga episode.
Yeah.
Or probably just
that's
an
enough
anime
content.
episode, then
Yeah.
a manga episode, then we'll
Are we projecting our
gets
thoughts
its
on here?
own-
Yes, we are. Okay, let's cut to the chase here. Comic books and only comic books. None of this manga shit. None of
Wow.
this is America, son. We read comic books.
He's salty. Anyway, okay, go ahead. So where we start?
We are starting with. It's
With-
going to
with
weave
the big
in and
old
out.
Dump crap.
Yeah, it's going to weave in and out a lot, but we'll have 4 sections, 4 or 5 with the main companies that are still around. There's too many independents to list, so we're just going to break those out, but then we're going to weave the conversation, and it might cross over like into Marvel, into DC, into IDW, Image, so on and so forth. So I plan on, for the first segment, doing Marvel,
Okay, then.
which we've all read Marvel comics. That's at this point, especially in this point in time with the movies killing it, getting people to read their stuff now. You know, there's more people than ever reading Marvel comics. Ironically, sales are down.
Because all of the old comics have gone online in various formats. You can either torrent them or find them on old archive sites, things like that. So while the sales of current comics might be down, the readership of the older comics has absolutely gone up.
That's definitely not how I got a hold of all of the X-Men comics.
Listen, I have the files on my computer to prove it. This girl went absolutely apeshit.
I actually read most of them physically.
I never got into X-Men, so I am the odd man out here. I know, Sin.
What is wrong with you?
I had a weird ass taste in comics. Yeah, I actually watched more of the cartoon than I read of the comics.
I own the cartoon. I own the comics. I own the movies.
I even read fan fiction.
Damn, getting into that some kinky shit there.
Is that the like Wolverine and Jubilee
I don't know what you're
romance
talking
subplot?
about. Nope.
When you're immortal, some of those dating guidelines are a little bit awkward. He comes from a time when 16 was probably legal.
Jesus. Hello, Idaho.
Let's not get into age of consent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's illegal in Idaho.
True.
I don't know if you just heard
Idaho,
about that, but
no,
yeah.
you don't.
Idaho, Idaho.
Going back to that, yeah, I honestly have never read much X-Men. I had a weird ass taste. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy before it was a thing, like before it was a mainstream thing.
When it was the different cat, like the classic cast.
The Guardians of the Galaxy.
The original cast, complete shit. The second more famous iteration is the Drax, Groot, Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket, that whole crew, and they look totally different than the movie counterparts, which I enjoyed the movie more, I think now, like the way they set it up with music and pop culture references more than the traditional Guardians, like how they were first brought in.
They had a lot of pop culture references in the comics originally too. I
They
think
did,
a
but-
lot of times that's what made comics kind of a mainstay, is because they were not only depicting these other people's lives, but then bringing in current relevant references.
Oh,
that
yeah. How
people
many
could relate
times
to.
has the president shown up in Marvel Comics or DC Comics? Yeah.
But no, I'm talking about more like they chose the 80s and specifically with that use the soundtrack and the backdrop of the 80s instead of just throwing in random pop culture from, let's say, 2000s, 90s, because that's where Peter Quill was quote unquote abducted from, was what, the 80 in the movies, 80.
Probably 82 or 83. I don't know. Hey, I just watched it and I didn't pay attention. Who cares about the little subtitle thing?
But basically, yeah, the 80, it's mostly 80s focus, which I really enjoyed. And I thought it brought it to modern day, whereas Guardians is mostly just like, hey,
It was cult up to that point.
It was very cult, and it's very much like a police force in space, and they had uniforms, and it was just like, So them being a ragtag group of bandits that they all look different. They don't wear uniforms.
Well, they do at the end of the first movie.
Yeah, they do. And
They all have the Ravager uniforms.
Yeah, and then they don't use those again. They kind of have their own in two, I guess.
Kinda.
But it's interesting how it evolved. And same with X-Men. It's still evolving to this day because
X-Men has so many variations, it's not even funny.
Ultimate X-Men.
Can go suck my frosted covered dick.
That's my favorite.
I do
know.
not like Ultimate X-Men at all.
Why?
I was just gonna go through and list them all. But
I think it's bland. That was when Marvel was rehashing
The look
the
on her
whole
face right now.
universe.
To be fair, though, I am pretty bland.
It was basically, here's was it 616?
yeah, 616.
It's like all of 616, like 30, 40 years of history up to that point condensed down into 5 years. And it was like, this is horse shit. This stuff should not be happening this quick. I also didn't like the look of, they kind of went with the movie version of X-Men. Everyone had leather outfits. And it's like, to hell with this. I don't like this at all. Also, Galactus sucked.
So you had the
Marvel sucked.
the Uncanny X-Men, which was the
Uncanny
leader.
Uncanny is probably one of the better.
Uncanny was good.
So
too.
that was 60, somewhere in the 60s, I think, is when
Late
that
60s.
started.
Late 60s. Yep.
Let's pull this up.
They're good. I have a soft spot for Astonishing up through the first couple volumes.
That was kind of like at the height of the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby.
Well, yeah, he made X-Men.
Well, I mean, the saturation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and he was pushing a lot of social issues. I mean, let's be honest. The whole point of X-Men is it's a racial stereotypes, and
Yep.
it's good.
From the 60s mainly, the civil rights movement is where they drew a lot of their inspiration from.
And then they paralleled it in
It was just
the
they were all white.
lives of mutants trying to gain acceptance in the rest of human society.
And then there were the two factions. There's the ones that said, "Oh, the hell with this. We're going to fight and kill the humans," and then the ones protecting them. It was kind of like the Black Panther movement versus like the Luther movement or Martin Luther King movement. You know, it's the peaceful versus the violent, and they both want the same thing, but obviously they're clashing all the time. Definitely my favorite. Two of my favorite characters of all time is Magneto and Phoenix.
They had somewhere like 500 or so issues
Oh yeah.
within that block alone. So I never got to read a lot of those because obviously I wasn't alive then. Thank goodness.
Hey, I've read them, and
All right.
I wasn't either.
So yeah, there's
That's
a whole,
because
Yep, I see it right on
you torrent the hell out of
right
some
on
stuff.
Rich's screen right there. The worst fucking rendition. Even worse than Ultimate is Extreme.
All right,
Yeah, okay.
everybody calm the fuck down.
No.
Uncanny X-Men. Technically, it's 1981, 400.
Yeah, that's the one that I grew up with was
X-Men
Uncanny.
1963 is just X-Men.
Right. Okay. So the
Uncanny is what we
Uncanny
know.
was the run I grew up with.
Yeah, 80s and
That's
90s.
81, and that lasted for 408 issues. So yeah, big I think it's the largest listing out of all these. And X-Men Volume 2 happens 91 to 08. It has 167 issues.
And I didn't get to read a lot of that because I was doing a lot of other things.
You were aging out, probably.
I was like, comics aren't cool anymore.
And then we move on to the new X-Men.
Balls aren't cool.
They weren't.
Which you're definitely not going to know because that was 2001 to
They were
2004.
always really warm and sweaty.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I always had sweaty balls.
Why the fuck are we talking about balls?
New X-Men is definitely what so much the storyline, but like the look of First Class in those movies. That's what New
That's
X-Men is
exactly
based on.
what the cover looks like. It's the stupid black leather with the yellow X across the front.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It was so weird.
Well, get used to it because Dark Phoenix is going to have that shit.
Yeah. Well, they've had it for the past couple.
Yeah.
Extreme, horrible. I don't
2001 to
know
2004.
why it lasted that long. It was bad.
It lasted 3 more issues than New X-Men.
I bought
Pretty
the
amazing.
first volume of that and went, oh my God, this is bad. Astonishing, I do like. Astonishing, I have a soft spot for.
Astonishing Volume 3, apparently. It's 04 to 13.
Yep.
68 issues.
And I think Astonishing's what flowed into End Song and War Song for the Phoenix Saga. And I really like War Song. End Song, not so much.
How do you really feel about that?
Well, you get into the cuckoos, and I don't like the
It
cuckoos.
got weird pretty quickly.
Yeah, the whole those stupid sisters can go jump off a cliff. I don't like those characters, and I don't like Emma Frost. I don't. Ugh.
All right, so you're just scrolling through. There's so goddamn many. X-Men Legacy, which then picks up in 2008 to 2000. These are all running concurrently because a lot of these 2004 to 2013, 2008 to 2014.
It's a good thing you brought up a list because I couldn't possibly remember all the blocks. I was trying.
It gets worse.
Well, it gets worse, especially when you go into Excalibur,
Yep.
X-Force.
We're going to get there. X-Men, we're going to list all these.
No, we don't have that kind of time.
Well, no,
We might be here for a while.
this is the main. Okay, so just to do a rundown, we have X-Men Volume 3 from 2013 to 14, X-Men Volume 4, 13 to 15, all new X-Men 13 to 15, amazing X-Men Volume 2, 2014, Extraordinary X-Men 2016, 2017, all new X-Men Volume 2, 2016,
All new X-Men.
2017. Yeah, these are getting year runs now because they're obviously garbage. Uncanny X-Men Volume 4.
They start jumping back to older stories and it's like, oh yeah, ignore like the past 3 years. We're picking off from like 3 years ago timeline and we're just forget that.
Yeah,
it just got
2016, 2017 is Uncanny Volume 4, X-Men Blue 17 to 18, X-Men Gold Volume 2 17 to 18, Astonishing X-Men Volume 4.
Aren't they in
17 to
extermination
19.
now? Or
I have no
there's
idea.
There's some sort of block.
The
I
last
stopped
two-
reading Marvel a long
The
time
last
ago.
two on this list, X-Men Red 18 to 19 and Uncanny X-Men Volume 5 19 to 19. The last of 18 issues.
Did they list the Christmas special one?
Yeah, there's
The
one offs down there.
the Merry Mutants, Marvel's Merry
all
Mutants.
this shit.
There's like a whole
Limited
Christmas
others.
series.
Yeah, this is horse shit.
Well, it's because it's one of their most popular franchises.
Yeah.
Well, but the reason I brought all these up is because that's shifting into what I want to go into next is how many Marvel series now? Captain America does this. Captain Marvel does this. Guardians has done this where they have one issue runs because they're all over the place, jumping back and forth.
And there's no readership for it.
Yeah. And then they just cancel it and then reboot it again. And it's like they're rebooting things multiple times in 1 year. It's insane.
I'm going to touch on this real quick because we got the Captain Marvel movie.
I was going to bring that up.
The movie's going to be great. By this point, it hasn't come out yet, but I think it's going to be fantastic. My biggest complaint so far with that is they're jumping over years of history and they're not having her start as Miss Marvel first.
Right.
Mhm.
Which we all grew up with.
Because I'm such an X-Men fan, Rogue got her flight powers from Miss Marvel.
Yep.
So it's like you're jumping the gun on something that I feel like they should take a few steps back because X-Men's inevitably going to be brought into the MCU. And you have from the 90s to now time frame to fill in some of those stories,
But
and you're fucking with it.
that's one of those things where they can always just go back and basically retcon the new story to say within the first 2 minutes, like, oh, look, here's where Miss Marvel, gave her powers over to Rogue. And
What they're doing is, if you notice what they've been doing, is they're using the movies to relaunch some of these comics and they're
Mhm.
So Captain Marvel came out, I think, in 2000. Let's see, the current run, the one that this movie's based
The
off
one
of.
with Carol.
Yeah, with Carol.
Yeah, I've never read any of the modern run with her as Cap.
Right. It was always Miss Marvel.
Like all the comics that I own, it's still Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel, and Marvel is Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is really funny. You can only become a superhero if, you know, an alien bequeaths you their superpowers. Their
yeah,
Kree
but that
superpowers.
alien is not going to be in the movie.
I know.
Spoiler alert: Marvel is not Marvel. By the time they hear this,
Yep.
oh well. If you haven't watched it yet, get your ass to a theater.
We alluded to that fact during the movies in 2019.
Yeah.
When we talked about this.
Yeah. So the current one that this movie's based off of debuted in 2010. So wow, I can't believe it's been that long. Holy shit. The problem with the current run is it's been around since 2010.
It's stale.
Guess how many runs it's had? Like reboots.
7.
For what
For the current Captain Marvel that debuted 2010.
7.
Close.
4.
15.
6.
Oh, okay.
It's had
Because
6 reboots within that short time frame.
I know of at least one. I was just throwing out 7 because when she came around in 2010, 2011, that's the rendition of her with the mohawk, right?
Yes. There was an outcry on that.
That was the weirdest effing thing.
She didn't really even have a mohawk. It was, she had short hair, but then she had longer hair making the mohawk.
It just came off really weird visually.
Yeah.
Which the movie's going to kind of allude to all the different looks she's had, which I like,
Yes.
but it was like that. They rebooted that quick because people are like, what the fuck is this?
Almost the entire nerdverse freaking revolted.
Well, that's why now, and even in the comics, she has mohawk in her little, like the helmet comes on, like her space helmet, it forms around her head. And then that's where the mohawk sticks out because her hair's so long, it sticks out there, but it makes the mohawk.
That's okay. Her with her helmet off.
It hasn't gone away. It's just they adapted it to what
I grew up
people
with Miss Marvel. That's the version I like. I'm sorry.
I'm going to second that. I second that emotion.
Change is okay. Girls in comics don't always need big boobs, tight outfits, and long hair.
I'm not saying that that's what I want.
They don't. But as long as they don't go with Ultimate Captain Marvel, you know, we're okay. Even though there was an Ultimate version of Captain Marvel and his suit came out of his watch, which, again, fuck that. Fuck that shit real hard. And I think he had cancer too. There was they tried making some weird underlying tone where his powers gave him cancer. And it's like, no, he's an alien. That shouldn't affect his fit. I don't know.
It was sort of
they were trying to humanize a character who's not human.
They were trying to say, okay, well, this person can't be a super forever because it's eventually going to deteriorate their body. So I think it was kind of creating that buy it now attitude of like, oh, hey, I'm not actually going to be able to finish reading this story of this character because they're going to end up dying. So
yeah, Marvel's kind of jumped. I haven't read anything Marvel since probably 2011 because they started getting into event mode. They started becoming like DC where it was every year had to have a major event.
Yeah, every year since 2011 has had an event. And that's what got me out of it because I read Avengers versus X-Men.
Oh, fuck that.
That was the last one I read and that was so bad. I was like, nope.
I think what I liked about the Uncanny was I would miss like months at a time and I would go to the store and I'd pick up the new comic and it would have elements from where I had last left off. Almost like a daytime soap that you could turn on now and it's the same freaking story you've been hearing for the last 10 years. You know, it's just another day in the life of these people.
Their events were few and far between.
Now it's if you don't keep up with an entire block or a season, you get in there and you're like, wait, what did I just missed an entire plot point. What happened? I don't know. There are a lot of new comic readers though that when I talk to them, they can rattle through all that stuff. They're like, oh, this happened during this period and this happened to this character and da, da, da. And well, I mean, really, I feel like Jeremy should be sitting here.
Yeah,
because he is a modern comics reader, so I'm sure that we'll get some feedback.
So he's one of the people who's probably reading that horrible Civil War II arc. Has that started yet? All I know is there is going to be a Marvel Civil War 2.
Yeah, I know there was
which
the
is
whole
the
arc that
dumbest thing I've ever
everybody.
heard.
I think it's Captain
was
Marvel versus Iron Man now.
undercover Hydra agents or like sleeper Hydra agents. So that
Yeah,
happened.
that was
and
happening around the movie.
Yeah.
Of course, there was major upheaval around that, and then they
Well, the
they
Captain
switched.
America Hydra caused an uproar.
Everybody was like, "Oh my god, Captain America can't be Hydra."
Well, technically, it was Captain America that was Hydra.
He was
Everyone was like, it'll be fine because it's not really Captain America. No, it was Captain America. He got turned. I still think I was kind of,
It was risky.
it's skirting the line there only because the character's history with what it represents for the creators that made the character. For those that don't know, both creators of Captain America are Jewish.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So it's a little different context when you're like, I mean, Hydra's not Nazi per se, but
It pretty much is.
But how reflective is it of current politics?
well, but it was more of like Hydra has been during Cap's initial run where he's fighting the Nazis. Hydra is the Nazis. And that's why I think a lot of people are like, Hydra equals Nazis. So it's kind of fucked up that.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting take. And eventually they resolved it. Captain America comes back
Right.
as Cap, but it's technically not the real Cap, but it's a memory. It's fucking weird. But
Yeah, I mean, the way they try and explain their way out of some things that they write themselves into, sometimes it's like, you probably should have just
and that's
left
where
it.
I think it loses me.
We're going to destroy the universe and it's recreated by one of the Celestials. yeah. Kiss my ass.
And everybody has exactly the same memories they died with in the previous.
Well, the problem with that is they're taking simple premises and then adding these complex reasons of how to get back to what it was before, undoing what they've already done.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do I need this complex explanation? Just give me a simple explanation.
Yeah.
They do the complex ones because not everybody follows it.
Well, that, and they also have to stretch out a small event like that could have been 3 or 4 comics into 6 to 9 issues. And I think that's where Marvel, you have more people engaged in comics more than ever, yet Marvel is losing its share of the pie compared to DC.
So, yeah, that brings up a good point. I mean, DC is picking up readership, but not necessarily thriving in the box office compared to Marvel and a lot of the other IPs. So what is DC doing right that Marvel isn't?
Maybe people are just want to get that nasty taste out of their mouth, so they're running to the nearest comic shop to actually read something that's worth a damn.
They're also not rebooting every single thing.
They're not rebooting everything. They rebooted the New 52.
They rebooted like 3 times in the last 10 years.
10 years. Marvel does it every freaking year, it seems like.
True.
So they're a breath of fresh air compared to Marvel, who's always rebooting things at all times. Whereas DC's like, we'll do it once every 3-4 years.
Yeah, but then they just like some things never get conclusion. It's like,
right.
Tune into the next episode to see the conclusion of this arc. Oh, no, we decided to reboot the whole franchise. It's like,
true. I mean, but that's every company out there, it seems like.
Except for like things like Batman, where
it
was when, because I stopped reading DC a while ago, too, because I got tired of this shit. And it was like with
tired of their shit.
New 52, certain timelines kept going while others got rebooted.
Yeah.
But it was like Batman didn't get rebooted. He got pushed back in time. So everything that had happened up to a certain issue still happened. Everyone else was brand new. It was like, oh, this is the origin story, except for Batman. And it was like, this is pointless.
I think that's more because what we're going to talk about, what I think the common theme I'm hearing, and you can kind of see more and more of now than ever, is with Marvel and DC making the push into the box office, they are kind of putting the comics on the back burner. And there's a lot of people there that have moved from the comic division to the movie division.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening now is it's kind of like they're in this weird flux of they're hiring new people to write comics.
You got to go where the money's at. And right now, money's in the box office.
And those people may or may not have experience writing for comics or having like any comic experience. So what they're doing is they're picking up people that have credentials of other writing styles, but not comics.
What's interesting about both Marvel and DC, though, is that despite their box office performance and their comics performance, their toy sales have skyrocketed on
merchandise is where the
both
real money's
sides.
at.
Yeah.
On both sides, because we're hitting that whole point where the 80s is coming back around to being the kind of hip thing that kids are referencing, and you know, after that it'll be the 90s, and
We
during
got money to
both
spend,
of those
so.
times Marvel and DC were huge properties, And so all of those toys are being remanufactured. Some of them complete exact duplicates of what they were, just in new packaging. And then others are re-envisioned versions of those same characters, but with different themes around them. While their comics might not be doing that great, their toys are certainly smashing it out of the park.
Right. But like just focusing on just the comics aspect.
Oh yeah.
Like we're weaving in and out, but the point I'm making is DC and Marvel, are they chasing the non-comics media now using the comic book properties?
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. So basically now comic books, how much longer are they actually going to, or even do they care about them now? Or do they just throw whoever they want on the comics to churn out more stories?
I think it'll slow down because, like right now, if you go over to like Nostalgia, it's an entire wall of current runs. And if you look at like what's going on in DC, you've got like 3 or 4 different Batmans going on. You got all the different super people, Superman, Supergirl, Power Girl.
You have multiple Avenger teams now.
Yeah. So it's
just,
I got a
it's
feeling
so
what
much.
they'll do is they'll just pare it down to, okay, these are the ones that are doing well.
Got the fat.
We might bring those back as like crossover episodes later.
I look forward to seeing if another one of them can do, like another 400 or 500 run that actually has a quality storyline to it.
Yeah, because Batman's about to hit 1,000.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think this month.
And what's crazy about DC is I think what DC's done way better than Marvel in the comics realm is while Marvel is expanding in the movies and they're taking their unknown characters, making them known in the movies, DC's doing that with the comics. Like Harley Quinn, fan favorite for 20 years now, ever since she debuted in the animated series.
Yep.
She is not a comic character.
Correct.
And she has her own comic now where she's kind of different.
She's an anti-hero.
She's an anti-hero, kind of like Deadpool. She breaks the
Mhm.
fourth wall, anti-hero. Other times she's a straight up hero, depending on how
Which
it's
is weird
written.
because, she started out as a sidekick to the Joker
Yep.
as a villain.
Yeah.
She was a villain.
And now she is an anti-hero. I think
Given the
that's kind
timeline of that
character,
character, though.
kind of growth point.
And they showed her evolution because now she's on her own. She doesn't need the Joker anymore. She actually finally realizes after
Yeah, that he's a douchebag
that
who
he's an
constantly
asshole.
mistreated her.
She had
Basically
Stockholm syndrome.
True chaotic neutral.
well, she realized she had Stockholm syndrome and she broke out of that and now she's doing her own thing.
Good thing she's a doctor. She got there eventually.
Right. That's what always bugged me about
Not
her.
in all versions, though.
That's true.
Some versions, she's not a doctor anymore.
But like her original premise, it kind of bugs me. It's kind of like you're a doctor, you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and
She was still like 18 or 19.
true. And she was an
She would have been
impressionable.
like mid-20s then. if
Yeah.
She just got out of school.
I guess, and they're trying to show that the Joker was so good with his mind games and words that he can convince
When
anyone.
you meet somebody that is that good with fucking with your head, yeah,
True.
that's what happens.
Come on. You want to murder with me, don't you? I'm going to cut off my face and then staple it back to my face. Well, actually, no,
I
he
actually
didn't cut off
enjoyed
his
that.
own face.
No.
That was...
it got ripped off by
it's not Pig. I can't remember. Yeah, he gets his
Professor
face.
Pig.
Yeah, it's not Pig. It's somebody else. But yeah, anyway, he
I
stapled
thought
his face
that
back
was
to
a cool
his face.
twist on the Joker. Again, that's what DC's
He was
doing.
creepy.
They are taking their characters, they're evolving them, and that's what keeps me more interested than just like, okay, let's reboot. And then they have like they did with Captain America. They rebooted him after Hydra, which give him credit for trying something different with Hydra, but then they rebooted him again, and then it's like, okay, he's kind of back to what he was.
So that other storyline never existed.
Well, it existed. It's just that they're like, let's go back to what we know. And
They should have just done that old trope, and it was all just a dream.
Now, I will say, I can stand certain. I don't like straight up like remakes or retellings of stories. I don't mind certain reboots because the Green Lantern did a reboot in kind of the
Yes.
mid-aughts that was fan-fucking-tastic.
the new 52, they made Sinestro.
No, before that.
No, but like the new 52, I loved because Sinestro was immediately reverted back to Green Lantern.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had to show his fall.
I didn't
So he
realize that had
falls
happened.
from Sinestro Corps, Yellow Lantern, and then becomes green again. And the number one issue for New 52 for Green Lantern has not Hal Jordan on the cover, Sinestro
Ooh.
in
'Cause
Green Lantern
But I still
uniform
like,
again.
and this has more to do with our buddy Alex, where he loves Green Lantern and he loves Captain America, so he was always feeding me these stories. Well, he fed me what was it? What was the name of the arc? Like the War of Rings or whatever. It's the cover absolutely everybody hates.
He gave me the Jeff Johns run, and that whole run is freaking. It ends with the Blackest Night and the War of the Rings and all that, but that whole run is fantastic.
Well, this is before that. This is around the Death of Superman era, where it's the cover where Hal Jordan has all the rings. He's been killing everybody because he wants more power. And everybody hates that version of him. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, Parallax takes him over.
Yeah, it was a different version because he was going nuts after, was it Coast City? It's his city is completely wiped off the map.
Yeah.
And he goes nuts and tries to get all these rings so he has enough power to recreate the city out of light. And
that sounds pretty dope.
The run right after that, where they strip him of his power, and it's like, no, seriously, you're a great guy, but you need to calm the fuck down. And it's him kind of reemerging as Green Lantern, and I think it's just called Green Lantern Rebirth.
Yeah, that's the Jeff Johns.
That is an amazing first
Jeff Johns before he got, because he got assigned New 52 Green Lantern when they rebooted it, but that one, it undid all the crap that happened before that.
Yeah, but I liked what led up to it as well as that reboot. And then going in, I like a little bit of Blackest Night. And then I kind of
that's when it got really
I kind of dropped
there.
off, because then you start getting into some of
that was the huge
Death
crossover
rings
thing.
and
that's where Batman, Superman shows.
Yeah, Batman ends up with a ring.
Well, a lot of the Justice League, they die, they come back as part of the Black Lantern Corps, and it gets weird. There's 6 Lantern Corps at that point. You got red, green, blue, yellow,
white, black.
We're past that. Then you got the Star Sapphires.
Yeah, I was about to say that's like whatever the purple pink ones are.
So you got about 7 armies essentially of lanterns.
So it was good. And that's like the one reboot I like.
Hold them back.
No, because there was some really interesting concepts, like Scarecrow was part of the Yellow Lantern Corps because he's Fear. You had,
really? I didn't know he was part of that.
Batman was also part of the Yellow Lantern Corps as well.
He was, yeah. Before going to Black.
Because Batman
it's only Fear. It's only one shot.
Exactly.
He's offered the ring and he puts it on, and you see his suit go all Yellow Lantern, and then he's like, nope. Nah.
That used to be like one of the primary starting lines was who strikes fear into the heart of evildoers everywhere.
Shadow knows.
Ah, there it is.
Well, then Lex Luthor was orange.
Dude, I'll go off on the Shadow. I love the Shadow run.
We'll get
there.
We'll get there in the independent. We'll get there here in the independent section.
I forget who owns that. Actually, Marvel owns a version of the Shadow now.
So, real quick, I feel like, did we step over you on the Ultimate X-Men because you really were excited about it?
I'm good.
She mentioned it before I stomped all over it. It was like, no, you're wrong.
No, I'm good.
Because you can talk about it and I can edit it in.
I don't want to.
Okay, fine.
No, I didn't even want to.
I'm good. I'm fine. No, I was
Fry poo-pooed on your thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't like Ultimate.
You know, weirdly, people can like different things. It's okay.
My favorite is probably Uncanny. Her favorite's Ultimate. Makes sense.
But what I was wanting to say is that one thing I like about DC from a visual standpoint is I love the gritty, darker nature of their whole catalog. I wish like Marvel's stories and DC's style could like merge into a beautiful baby.
I can understand that. DC definitely looks better. And I think they always kind of have been.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It seems like they took time with their artwork. Marvel always had the more realistic, gritty stories, the broken, damaged characters.
Because John Buscema was a classically trained artist before he actually started drawing comics.
Ooh, did not know that.
Yes.
Cool.
John Buscema. I think that's it. His first name is John.
Before we leave the DC universe, probably my favorite DC character is blasphemous for most people, and they absolutely hate the little bastard. But homie over here likes some steel. I have
some Lexington steel.
I have like the first comic book of Man of Steel, where it's like it actually has like the Superman logo all in metal.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and you open the cover and
I
then
remember
it's,
all that.
it's him holding the hammer and the giant steel suit with the red cape. I have that. I still have that, and I still read it to this day.
Are you going to cosplay as that for us one day?
I wish.
And then there's that
Come on,
shitty
Fry,
movie.
you in a nice
I can deal
steely
with the
blue
movie.
suit.
I can deal with the movie. The movie's not steel, but it's a steel.
A steel. Yeah. So I mean, again, even back in the 90s, they were trying to turn their obscure properties into blockbuster movies.
And just as a point, before there was Black Panther, there was Steel.
There was Blade. There was Steel. There was what
Before
else was there?
Blade, there was
There's
Steel.
Steel. What's before Steel? The
I don't
there
know,
something?
Shaft. He's not really a superhero.
it's not
but
superhero.
They
Yeah.
got Blade and Laser and Taser, all kinds of Asers.
They call me Taserface.
Worst character. Oh my god, I hate that character so much. He was there just for jokes. He served no purpose besides being the punchline to a lot of those jokes. It's just like, yeah.
Sometimes you need a comic voice.
So, any other DC comic talk? Do you like the Batmans? Do you like the Supermans? Do you like all the characters that have to end in a man's for whatever reason?
Well, they have Batwoman, Batgirl, Bat.
And it still ends in a
Yeah.
man, doesn't it?
No.
DC's misogynist.
Wonder Woe Man.
Yeah. Whoa, man. Why can't it just be Wonder Woe?
Then she's crying all the time and she's sad. And then,
Wow.
Yeah, she'll come in here and
What
whoop
woe
your
means.
ass. She's part of the trinity of that company. She'll whoop your ass.
Are we allowed to talk about Vertigo, or was that a seperate
no,
topic?
that's part of
Because I know
DC.
it's part of DC,
That's part
so
of
I'm
DC.
like, I don't know if it's a right time for it. I don't know these rules.
Go for it.
We're like the Wild West. There are no rules.
You
We're
can talk
shooting
about
from the hip
Vertigo
here.
if you can cite the entire V speech from V for Vendetta.
Oh, yeah, you
Fuck
forgot
you.
Watchmen in there, too.
Yeah.
Watchmen.
That's not a man, but it's a min.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Well, you know who's not a man?
All right, anyway, go ahead.
Preacher.
Preach on. Preach on.
So I was introduced to it through the ABC show, or not ABC. What the fuck is that channel's name?
AMC.
Thank you. That place. And then I was like, well, this is really interesting. I should probably look into this further. And so I think that generally speaking, DC excels in the TV format when they transition things.
100% yes.
They're so good at drawing out the story. They
Absolutely.
don't know how to condense. They lack
That's true.
editing.
Besides for the Netflix Marvel shows, Agent Carter was okay. Shield is a pile of trash now.
It was amazing when it started.
No.
No.
It was basically the end of season 1 into season 2. It was good. And then it fell off real quickly. However, all the DC shows until maybe the last year
I liked it.
have
Fuck
been
you.
fantastic. Like Flash was amazing. Arrow was great. Supergirl was great. Legends of Tomorrow is great. It's only with like the last year that they're
They got
kind of
lazy.
jumping the gun.
They got lazy.
Yeah.
It was so successful. They're like, oh, we can do whatever we want now.
Well, they had too much and they're all
Mhm.
trying to cross over with each other. But you're right. DC nails it on
And
TV.
Preacher is amazing. And I love that type of storyline where you struggle with your faith and what's happening. And, you know, here he is a preacher and he's not even sure if he believes what he's preaching. And, oh, yeah,
Loss
here's
of
some
faith,
supernatural shit to deal with,
mortality.
too. So I really enjoy it. And then I got a little bit into the comics, and the art is just really insane.
I think what I do like about DC is that they didn't run out there and just start creating a crap ton of characters so that they could prevent other houses from doing so.
They only have 100. I'm looking at their website right now. They think they have 168 characters.
It was more of them and Marvel
168.
started copying each other.
Yeah, it started slow.
But then to end it, Marvel decided, okay, fine, we're just going to go register every single freaking name possible.
Well, that's because the Captain Marvel incident. Before he was Shazam, he was Captain Marvel. Marvel's like, well, people are going to think it's our property.
Are you talking about Shaquille O'Neal as a genie?
No, that's Kazam.
I know.
You dick.
But can we talk about
The Shazam movie
Shazam?
looks good.
I think you're actually
With
talking
Sinbad,
about
the comedian?
Sinbad Shazam.
Yes, Sinbad.
that-
yeah, the one that never existed, but everyone collectively
Shaquille O'Neal
remembers it.
was Kazam and
I
Sinbad
know,
was
I was
Shazam.
just-
But do you remember Shazam?
I used to have the
With
boombox
Sinbad.
that
Sinbad, yeah.
Kazam came
Yeah.
out of.
It
I remember
never.
it.
It doesn't exist.
It was crazy.
Look it
real,
up. It
Real
doesn't
quick
exist.
aside,
Is it a Mandela effect
It
thing?
is,
Oh
and
my
we all
God.
fucking remember
No,
it.
I never remembered it when that one came out.
Whatever
I'm like,
you.
mean Kazam?
I didn't even know what the Mandela effect was And then Amber was like, "Hey, babe, do you remember that movie with the comedian guy that played the genie?" And I was like, "You mean Shazam with Sinbad?" And she was like, "Yeah."
See, that's when people talked about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I had a physical connection to Kazam. I had a toy of the boombox, and you would hit it, and
I
Shaquille
thought
O'Neal
this
would
was
pop
getting ready
out
to go
of it.
down an
But
awkward
here's
path.
the deal. In my mind,
Holy shit.
in my mind, Kazam is the Marvel copying of Shazam, the original by a different.
Yeah.
Like it's that whole thing where they're like,
This
"Oh, we're
is-
making
Somebody
the same
went
thing."
back in history and
No.
erased an entire
No,
movie.
it-
I just looked this up, and someone actually made a fake VHS cover of it. And these are like two worlds of mine colliding right now, comics and wrestling. They took Chavo Guerrero's body from his WWE render, cut his head off, put Sinbad's head on it, made his skin actually, ironically, a little lighter. And
They white faced them.
yeah, they kind of white faced him because I can't tell Chavo Guerrero is Hispanic. And they so it's his body, Sinbad's head on this horrible
Spinning vortex of magic.
It's
Can
someone
we just
actually
talk about how you know Chavo Guerrero's body on site?
I'm
Because-
looking
He has
at
picture. He has
Honey,
pictures.
she's looking at this.
Snopes.com.
Oh, okay.
However, I will say, because I keep harping on this, and I'm going to keep harping on this until people learn, that fake VHS cover
Amazing.
still looks better than Will Smith's face on the fucking genie.
Did you see the Meeseeks meme with the genie? Somebody put a Meeseeks face on.
And it probably looks just as good.
Fucking
It
A.
looks amazing. Actually, I kind of want a Meeseeks live action movie now.
In good news, Sinbad has
Oh.
volunteered to create this movie to put everyone at ease.
Sweet.
He's
Good
I'd
guy,
be
volunteered.
okay
Sinbad.
with this. Go ahead, Sinbad.
Yeah.
What makes
I like
Shazam
Sinbad.
after
So we should probably
Zachary
get back
Levi.
on comics because we totally just.
Yeah.
Well, the whole Shazam, thing
Captain
Which,
Marvel.
yeah.
does look like a dope movie.
I'm so excited
With
about that
Zachary
movie.
That
Levi.
one looks good.
And I love Zachary Levi. It's gonna be awesome.
So real quick, I want to. This goes out to the audience. This is exactly how our conversations
Yes.
go. We start talking about something with a full intent of staying on track, and then something like that pops up, and we're like, "Oh yeah, by the way,
Ooh,
here's
shiny.
blah, 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 blah."
It's degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah,
We just Kevin Bacon every conversation.
exactly.
basically."
That's all.
Ooh, shiny ADD goes off here. That's just how it works.
And now we're talking breakfast.
But no, but to round back and to close that loop, I think Marvel did that because Shazam was Captain Marvel first, and then they were like, well, you can't use our name. It became a whole naming thing, and it's like, should Marvel be able to trademark? Essentially, DC lost the name Captain Marvel to Marvel, which is really fucked up because DC created Captain Marvel, so they had to call him Shazam, and I think that's when Marvel got the idea of like, ooh, let's be greedy pricks and
Let's
start
just
registering
go
everything.
block every name for everything ever. And then in order to solidify it, they actually had to create a character. So they would do these little shitty one appearance things and say, oh, that character's blocked now.
Fun fact, to go back into, let's close this up by going full circle here. That's how the Guardians were. The
I
second
know.
iteration of Guardians with Star-Lord and all them, they were all reject Vault ideas. They're just like, well, we have all these really shitty ideas. Let's put them on a team. Avengers in space. And that's how that happened.
And it fucking worked.
Yep.
But what's really crazy is, they want to go on these weird naming conventions. There's one series that is the most amazing modern day current comic, and surprised that they could even trademark this, which I looked up and they did. Saga.
Really?
The word Saga is trademarked now by.
It's also why
Image.
the game company couldn't get it because
Yep.
the comic had hit first.
Yep.
That's a bullshit.
So yeah, Saga by IDW. You are, I think, are the most experienced
It's
in the Sagaverse here.
It's been a while since I've read one because they're kind of on a year hiatus
Yeah.
at this point. And I still haven't read volume 9. I picked it up, put it on the shelf, and I'm like, I'll read through all 9 in one shot. It's amazing. It is the most insane thing you could possibly think of. When it first started, I don't think I started reading till volume 3 or 4 was out. And it was sold to me by basically a kind of black fairy lady and a minotaur have a baby together, and they go racing around the galaxy in a giant tree that doubles as a spaceship, and their babysitter is a ghost. It is basically
weird.
the weirdest possible version of Star Wars you could have ever ended up
Then
with.
there's like this guy in like a British uniform
With
that
a
has
TV for a head.
on his
Yeah,
head.
it's Prince Robot the Fourth.
This is in that series called Saga.
Saga.
Prince Robot the Fourth. He
Then
has a
there's-
TV for a head.
Then there's Lion
And
Cat.
random images while you're reading, random images pop up
Here
on
on
the
his face,
screen
yeah.
related to what he's saying.
I appreciate the cover art for chapter 1.
It is absolutely. Oh yeah,
Art's amazing.
and that's actually what it looks like. That's not just a flashy cover. That is the
Well,
art.
no,
throughout
I
all of it.
appreciate that she's just simply breastfeeding a baby and it's not like a big deal or awkward or strange.
Sexuality is not a
It's
concern
not
with
a
this
concern
book.
in that.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but it's. I don't mean that it's a sexual
I know,
thing, though. I
I
just
know.
mean that it's like just a normal act. It's not
Well, yeah,
awkward.
that's how the series opened.
Yeah,
I don't know
it is
how awkward
her-
it gets throughout the
Yeah,
book.
'cause
but-
her-
It opens up awkward.
Yeah, her daughter is born on a battlefield, and they're actually two different races that are at war with each other. They fall in love. They have a kid who's Hazel,
Aw.
Oh, Muffin.
and then they become
Oh,
fugitives. They become
Muffin.
fugitives from society because they're supposed to be enemies, and you're supposed to be killing each other. And what the hell are you doing, boning each other?
And they're like, nope.
Yeah, they peace out on board a tree.
on
It's a tree that flies
It's a
through
tree.
space.
a tree.
On a tree. And then they run, like I said, they run into their babysitter, which is
It's
a
damn good.
girl that stepped on a landmine and blew off her entire bottom half. And now she's a ghost that has
I mean,
her intestines floating around.
technically, because in Trigun, the two brothers are plants, so it's not
It's not
unfeasible, I
far-fetched,
guess.
but it
Saga
is
probably has. I think Amber would like it.
it's
a
so
lot.
strange, but it's
Probably.
it's very
Really, 'cause it's
emotional
really good.
too.
Yeah, it's
There's some
fantastic.
some nut kicks later on in the series, because they have a real relationship. I mean, they are enemies, and then they start seeing what their people are doing to each other, and they have arguments, and some of it
It's the
gets
anti-Marvel DC. It's less event, more character development, and
It's a
emotions.
I
long-running
may have
saga.
to take a look at it.
You both should because it's amazing.
Okay.
They have a bounty hunter that is basically a giant spider lady. There's another bounty hunter that has a large cat that its whole purpose is it knows whether you're lying or not.
Lion Cat. That's his name.
And that's all he can say. He looks at you, and if you're lying, he's like, lying. He's a
And if
giant
you're
blue
not,
cat.
He's silent. Yeah.
He's just a giant cat.
That's
I
pretty
guarantee.
cool.
I guarantee you've probably seen the Funkos places because they mass
Guaranteed.
produced them. Yeah.
The will,
yeah, I've
the will
seen
and
Saga
Lion Cat.
Yeah.
pops. I just didn't realize what it was. I thought it was
It's
an
a
anime
comic.
or something.
Yeah, no, it's fucking out there.
The art looks very anime.
Mm-hmm.
Very cute.
So yeah, IDW, they're a weird company.
Yes, they are.
They are very weird because I was looking up some of their stuff that they do. And this is a theme with a lot of these independents, especially with Dark Horse. They have their own original stuff, but then they also have a lot of licensed properties. So IDW, what do they have? They have Winona Earp as an original property. That's pretty cool. They have Saga, cool. Then you start getting into, they made the Angel comic. They made CSI, the comic books. They made
Does CSI need a comic?
Wait, Angel from like the
Book?
Buffy the Vampire.
yes, Doctor Who. They do the Doctor Who
Why?
runs.
Why would you make
They did a
that
Devil's
comic?
Reject one issue comic or a little mini series going up to the movie.
Oh man, that could have been actually pretty dope to leave as a
It's
long running
Well,
series.
it's left as a lot of the deleted scenes were moved to the one-shot comic.
But what most people are going to know IDW from is G.I. Joe.
Oh, they do a Dungeons and Dragons comic.
Yeah, they're a licensing house
Yeah,
primarily.
Godzilla.
All the various
Samurai
Ghostbusters, Star Trek. Actually, they had the
Jurassic
Ghostbusters
Park.
Star Trek crossover.
Magic the Gathering.
A comic
Yep.
for MTG.
Metal Gear Solid.
They have Star Trek.
Interesting.
Orphan Black.
I love Orphan Black.
Orphan Black was an amazing series.
Scarface.
But did it need comics?
I don't know.
Everything needs a comic. Wait, and this is where it's going to kind of turn into a
Why?
mini
Need more
rant of mine
Cosima.
because there's so much more
Stay
licensed
tuned
comics out
for a rich
now
rant.
than ever. Like
Let's hear it.
Scarface, Saw, Shaun of the Dead, Silent Hill. This is just IDW, mind
Well,
you.
Silent Hill needs some interjection.
Oh, I thought you were
going to
go on a rich rant.
No, but
It sounded like you were leading up to one.
well, I kind of tease, but yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles they're doing now. Transformers.
all the Transformers.
Just holy shit.
of
Licensing True
Wars.
Blood. They have every
Yeah, I actually have
weird-ass
one of the
Does
license.
that
Gears
say
of
Jim
Wars.
on your screen?
Yes.
Holy
Yes,
shit.
they did. It's basically the 80s in
Yeah, Jim.
comics.
Oh my God, dude.
Gem of the hologram.
Did IDW also do Mass Effect?
I don't see it.
Because I have a
That might have
bunch.
been Dark Horse.
Because I know I have a
No,
bunch of gears.
That is definitely Dark Horse because I'm looking at Dark Horse's website right now. And this is going to be reason why we're mentioning all these is because
We're going to try and
notice
segue a
the
little bit.
theme about
Fight Club
independence.
3.
Yeah. The independence.
comic.
Now we're on Dark Horse's website. We got Plants vs. Zombies,
John Wick.
John Wick, Anthem, the new video game by EA,
The big pile of shit by EA.
They have Mass Effect.
So this is kind of the future of comics
Stranger
is that
Things.
they are
Woo,
taking the video
Barbarella.
game IPs and expanding upon them.
Aliens.
Wait a minute.
Predator.
But no. Before we move on,
Battlestar
why does
Galactica.
I understand why Aliens could get a long comic series because you could have a bunch of shit about the Colonial Marines. Why does Alien 3 have its own run?
Why does Alien 3 specifically have its own
I
run?
like Alien 3. I'm probably one of the few people
it's
that likes
subtitle
it.
right here, the unproduced screenplay.
Oh, I bet that's where the whole planet's made of wood.
Probably.
The original thing was the whole planet was
From
wood.
the video
Probably
game
would
side,
be.
isn't Dragon Age in there too?
Yep. Dark Horse has the EA license to make comics.
Man, that's weird.
What?
John Wick.
What are you
God
pointing
damn
at?
it. Man, I set you up and you failed.
What? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Weird.
WYRD issue 2. I don't know if that's original or not.
God damn. You set people
Oh.
up and they just stumble on their own feet.
I might have actually caught it if I was looking
You
at it
know,
on my
they,
screen.
It could be Wired.
Could be. I bet it's weird.
Or Word.
Word.
And then let's go
Word.
to Image. I think they're more
Okay, yeah.
So, okay, this
Image.
is where
I got a good one for Image.
This is where Todd McFarlane had left working for Marvel and joined forces with a bunch of other people and created Image Comics.
And then they had the first 3 big ones.
Spawn,
Spawn, was Scud one of the originals?
think so. I think that was later.
I can't remember because there were 3 big ones. It was Spawn. Who was the like bounty hunter spacey assassin thing? My God, I feel bad about this. I don't read a lot of Image. I'll be honest.
Spawn was mainly the one I read.
one I
Yeah,
read was
Spawn.
Walking Dead for me. Let's find out.
Yeah, they started with these 3.
At a glance, I don't care for their art style.
Savage
They're very
Dragon,
weird.
Spawn.
Okay, what you need to know
Youngblood.
about Image quote unquote art
Wildcats.
style is it's not a specific art style or artist. They actually are kind of like the universal artists of the comic world because they bring together independent artists, independent writers, publishers, things like that, and give them a platform to produce their comics and get it out to a larger audience than they themselves could actually reach.
Well, the ones that they decided to put little image snippets with their featured series, I don't really care for any of them.
Ouch.
I'm picky. That's why I just don't bother.
Wait a minute, Lance. Right there.
Well,
There's an Image one that you and I
But they
both.
have a
Savage
lot.
Dragon? Witchblade?
Witchblade.
Witchblade.
Fuck yes,
Yes.
dude.
That's Top Cow.
Yeah,
So I
it
guess they
started
bought
out
Top
as Top
Cow.
Cow, but I
Yeah.
guess now it's
It's owned by Image, I believe.
Image.
Yeah. The Darkness as well.
Yeah. So
Witchblade actually was where I found one of my favorite artists. Stepan Sajic, the guy that does all of the artwork for that, or did. I don't know if he still does, but his art styling was absolutely amazing. I can't even remember the first time I came across it, but it was a depiction of what's her name, the Guardian chick,
I don't know.
and just the detailing on it was unfreaking believable.
That's one that I read for a few years. I haven't kept up with it, but I loved it. I loved it so much. I actually like the show, and the show's garbage.
Did you ever watch the movie?
I never. Are you sure the movie's not just the pilot for the TV show?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
I think it is. You can come over. I have the whole series on DVD.
That's funny.
They have an insane amount of stories.
I see it. I see what you're looking at, Rich. Don't tease
What
me.
you got over there, Rich?
He's fondling me.
That's going to be its own little thing because it's not owned by anyone. But yeah, we're still in the independent thing. And as I was saying earlier, so you got Image, who does mostly original stuff now. They're
Mhm.
starting to adapt. But then you have Dark Horse and IDW who rely pretty evenly on
parent
original
companies.
and a crap load of licensed stuff. So it's weird to see independent comics starting to become corporatized with those two companies and then kind of more free with Image.
And one of the ones from Image that I would really, really strongly recommend, it is 3 volumes and that is it. It is done. So it's pretty cheap to buy, easy to get into. It's called Velvet, done by Ed Brubaker, who's probably more famous for the Winter Soldier arc. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So I was literally just trying to figure out where Umbrella Academy fits into all this because I know it's getting a lot of hype right now with Netflix.
Yep.
And then I went to Dark Horse's site and I'm like, oh, found it.
Yep. That's where
Academy.
But
an original property that actually
it's doing well.
I mean, I'm not a
And-
huge fan of the show, but
Are you aware of who created it?
is that Gerard Way?
Because he wants to take you to the Black Parade,
That's Gerard.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gerard Way.
Really?
which is pretty awesome that he's
Co-created, I
reinvented himself into being comics.
But yeah, I would strongly recommend Velvet because how it was sold to me was it's a James Bond story if James Bond was killed on a mission and Moneypenny had to get off her ass and go do some spying.
Nice.
So it's basically an older secretary who has to go and finish up the mission. And it is badass. Probably one of the best kind of espionage thrillers you could read.
That's awesome.
Thriller in the night.
So yeah, we're kind of on this theme of comics and movies and multimedia. We talked about, obviously Marvel DC and then licensing rights being adapted to comics with Image and Dark Horse or IDW and Dark Horse, and then Image having its own original stuff. Then we have
Shit that the rights are up in the air.
the rights are up in the air. Nobody,
which is strange
owns
because
it looks like
this one just had a new run probably 9 years ago. It was a
And
short-lived run.
it's The Shadow.
The
Shadow knows.
Most famously, a really, 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 really,
You better watch your mouth, fucknut.
really, really, really bad movie.
It is not bad in any way, shape, or
Fucking
form.
hated that movie.
I'm pretty sure Fred's about to come across the table.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing
Slap
wrong
you.
with that movie. Movie is fucking amazing.
But for those that don't know, The Shadow is based off of a
It was a
40s character. Or no, 37.
Yeah, it was a radio show, and then later on was adapted into comics. And they took an entire arc of the comics and made it into the 94 movie.
And the radio show intro became a trope in a lot
Mhm.
of movies and even
Fallout does it.
comics.
Fallout does the Silver Shroud, which is a homage to.
Yeah.
Yep. Same
The
with
Shadow.
the Gray Ghost in Batman. Is
Really?
the Shadow.
Right.
It's a very popular character. I love the movie actually because I rented the movie so much from a video store that I think, well, probably my 6th or 7th time, they're like, "Dude, just take it home. You're the only one renting it."
Yeah, this is so weird because I'm reading more about it. It debuted in 1930 on a radio program.
Mhm.
However, short stories started appearing in Detective Story magazine. So you can listen to it or read it. Then it moves to the comics in what looks like 37, The Shadow Strikes.
Those are movies.
Oh, that's a movie?
Yeah.
Jesus.
They started making movies in the 30s, and that was before any of the paranormal stuff. He was just kind of a vigilante detective character. The paranormal stuff really didn't come in until I think 70s when he could disappear into his own shadows and shit like that. That was a comic thing that they added and partially for the movie as well.
Yeah, I was wrong. 1940, June 17th, 1940, his first comic debut appearance. Daily newspaper strip.
Yep.
Offered through the Ledger Syndicate. So not even everyone had access to it.
No.
So this is really weird because it's created by...
And it's still going on. Like I said, 9 years ago, they did a run called The Shadow Now. Kind of strangely at the same time, Marvel was doing their Marvel Now run, and they're not related at all. And it was trying to bring him kind of out of the 30s and into a more modern setting, because all the Shadow media has always placed him in the 30s. It's
a very noir
because he's
take
the
on
story-
every time his character shows up. The panels turn gray,
Mhm.
and I love that little kind of allusion back to the origins every time you see
'cause
him.
his story is he was a warrior in World War I. At least the version of him that I know the best is he was a soldier in World War I and then never came back. And people thought he was dead, but he actually became like a warlord in East Asia and becomes redeemed, but sort of not really, because he's still kind of an asshole. Anytime he becomes the Shadow, he's kind of a dick.
I like his look.
Yeah.
He has like the all black.
And he
with, like, a
always
black
has like
cape
this
and the
big
red.
pointy nose coming over his scarf. A lot of times in the comics, even now, anytime it's the Shadow, like what Lance said, is it gets dark and gray, and the only bit of color will be his red scarf.
Yeah, I love that.
I even have 2 separate paintings in my house of the Shadow, and one of them I was walking by the guy, recognized it immediately as I'm like, holy shit, that's the Shadow. And the guy's like, oh my God, you like the Shadow too? And I'm like, yeah, but there's one problem with your painting. He's like, what? And I'm like, you need to color his scarf red, because it was just black and white. I'm like, if you color in the scarf, I'll come back and I'll buy that from you. So he just pulled it down, colored it in real quick, because it was his only copy.
As an artist, I would totally do this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would be like,
Sales a sale.
Yeah, I looked at him like, if you make that red, it's I'm mine.
I would have been like, "Pay now, I'll make it red. You can come pick it up."
Yeah, I paid after the fact.
Here's an interesting tidbit. Sam Raimi.
Yeah, he's been trying to make a movie for years.
Well, apparently 9 more. 2006 is when he started writing for the Shadow movie. It was going to be Sam Raimi and Michael Uslan would co-produce the new Shadow film for Columbia Pictures. Makes sense. So he had a good relationship with Sony at the time. Then in 2007, he didn't have any news for the Shadow. They got the rights to the Shadow. So Sam Raimi had it for a while, or Columbia did.
He probably still does.
Yeah, for the movie. And then in 2012, the website Shadow Fan reported during a Q&A session at the 2012 Comic-Con that Sam Raimi, who was going to direct it, asked about the Shadow status, the film project status, and no good script, so no bueno.
So that would make a good show. Make it like a kind of a serial.
That's what they need to do with it, really.
Just have him solving a crime. Maybe have an overarching plot over the season, but have like every episode he solves a different crime.
I'd watch the shit out of that. That sounds way better than a movie.
I'll ship it.
As long as he still has the same powers as the movie, because that's the version I know more now, is he gets inside your head, and it's the whole thing is the only thing he can never hide from someone is his own shadow. In that version, he can make himself disappear, but his shadow's always there.
So is this going back to D&D here?
That's
a little bit.
You never figured that out.
Like.
That's the whole reason I created
had
Tybalt.
no idea this guy existed.
Yeah.
That whole red sash, like that was
I
a
did
dead
not
giveaway.
know about this show
Because
series.
if you look at my character sheet, the picture I had of Tybalt was the shadow with his nose peeking out over the red.
I was
thing
the
in
only
hat.
one that caught that too. Like when you handed it to me, I was like, "Yeah, buddy."
Well, do you know who else the Shadow inspired?
Who's that?
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
When it was originally Bat-Man, when Bill Finger and Bob Kane created him, Shadow was a huge inspiration to him, which I'm like,
Because he'd be on the radio all the damn time.
Yep. So yeah, in the original Batman, when he was Bat Dad,
When he was Bat Dad.
Bat Dash Man,
Bat Dad.
which is a weird spelling of Batman, which apparently is a whole different character than Batman that we know.
I think we're just gonna keep saying Bat Dad now.
Fuck you.
Ooh. No one can understand the Bat Dad.
But yeah, this Batman was actually originally written in the style of the pulp comic books. So
Yeah, because
pulp
a lot of people don't
stories.
realize when Batman first appeared, and I believe it's that version of Batman, he carried a 45, just like the Shadow. The Shadow carries dual 45s. Batman originally did carry a gun.
and the look and Alan Moore even credited the Shadow as one of the key influences, obviously style wise, to V for Vendetta.
Yep.
So yeah, Shadow has surprisingly influenced a lot of, at least on the DC
Because
side.
it's good. And somewhere in my house, I have no way of listening to it anymore. I actually have a bunch of the radio show on tape, like on cassette tape.
If you find those, we can upload them.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure they're out there. I love the Shadow.
But yeah, it's an interesting property because I guess comic rights are kind of up in the air.
They basically do a comic run like every 10 years for like 6 issues and then stop.
Whoever can acquire the rights, probably. Like, I'm not finding anything of who actually owns it now. Movie rights, I think, belong to Sam Raimi and Columbia. So
Yep.
kind of a weird property.
You murdered a policeman, Duke. The
Nobody
weed
can
of
own
crime
the Shadow.
bears bitter fruit.
You sure
That's
about that?
the whole point. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, somewhere somebody is going to fucking buy the rights to this thing.
I will buy the rights to the Shadow.
According to a Quora user,
Maybe not.
Condé Nast, the publisher behind New Yorker and Wired,
Own
owns
it?
it.
The fucking New Yorker owns Shadow.
I'll buy it from them. I bet it's cheap.
For $1.
I bet it's cheap. They probably don't realize. They're like, oh, that's a comic strip we haven't written in
Again,
a
for
while.
$1, we can buy 4 unused scripts.
True.
Yeah.
But it's not the Shadow.
True, but we can crap out our own. And
Hey, Alec Baldwin's not doing
here.
anything. We can get him back for a sequel.
The
Fat as hell, though.
Fat Shadow.
Fat Shadow.
the copyright is up in either 2020 or 2021,
Next year, buddy.
I'm
Save
buying
up.
it. I'm saving
Save
my
up.
money.
but the trademark is where it gets complicated.
I don't care. I want it. I want it now.
I might be kind of excited now.
I'm going to buy it.
You don't need to buy it. Once the copyright's up, it's just out.
No. I'll buy it and I'll keep the copyright and then everyone has
You
to pay me.
can't keep
You
that.
can't. You pay for
Unless
pay for
you're
the copyright.
Disney, you can't keep a copyright past 90 years. Lance can explain more if he feels like it.
I don't
No, this isn't that type of show.
feel like it.
New works will not have to get permission to use the character come 2021, but to use the name and likeness in marketing could get complicated. See Shazam.
Boom, full circle.
that's
Full circle.
Okay, then instead of buying the copyright, I'll buy the trademark.
Thanks, Matthew Joseph Andrews, for your detailed answer on Quora.
Encore.
Quora. Bum, bum, bum.
All right, before we wrap this episode up, let's go around the room and talk about
Ooh, I just thought another.
our absolute most favorite, not only hero, but what event or moment that made you gravitate towards that individual hero. So let's start with Fry.
Favorite all time
of all time.
hero.
And what made you like that hero?
Oh boy, this changes all the time.
Exactly.
It changes daily.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's the one I always have to go back to because it's actually the most merchandise I have on my shelf would probably be Phoenix.
Mm.
So Jean Grey.
And why?
Because she could rip apart the universe with her mind, and I want that power.
Okay.
And yet,
Fair enough.
despite her hormones, she chooses not to.
Except certain times. I mean, how
never
many
thought
times
about
has she
that
killed
way, and I'm like,
Scott?
holy shit, once a month, it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she almost kills the universe quite a few times,
insane.
and every time she
That's
dies, she keeps
amazing. I
coming
never
back.
thought of that. I'm like, holy shit, that changes the entire character now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she always comes back.
Self-control.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that self-control.
Well, you can only do it once. And then
No, you can destroy the universe and keep yourself alive.
that's true.
Could be just like Galactus. Galactus survived the previous universe.
Did he?
Yeah, he's the only being to survive the big
616
crunch.
Okay. Cool.
No, not between Marvel universes. Like
Oh.
in 616,
Oh, okay.
the previous
Yeah.
universe collapsed in
Collapsed,
itself in the big crunch, and Galactus was the only one to survive the Big Bang. He was at the
All
center
right.
of the Big Bang.
Fun little tidbit there. Cool. Moving on. Amber.
Batman.
Batman.
I'm Batman.
Why Batman?
Because Batman could theoretically die. Unlike Super fucking Man. I hate Superman.
Super fucking man.
Preach. I hate Superman too.
Also, I think she has a crush on Val Kilmer.
All right. All right. Debate now. Best Batman. Your
Michael Keaton.
Oh,
Well, Amber first.
Michael
This is
Keaton.
her, Jesus Christ, Fred.
The animated series. So that would be what's his
Oh,
name?
yeah.
Hold on.
Kevin Conroy.
Thank you.
Conroy.
That's the best Batman.
Because he's been the longest running Batman.
Yep.
Yes.
I think I have to tend to agree.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After
And
hearing
you said Michael Keaton.
yeah.
And then I trumped you with animated.
Man.
My girl's got some good taste.
Animated Batman's pretty good, but Michael Keaton.
Kevin Conroy is the most definitive Batman for me as far as voice goes. And of course, look, it changes depending on media. But yeah, voice, definitely Kevin Conroy. But my favorite,
Ben Affleck.
no, God, no.
He wasn't as bad as everyone made him out to be.
Batman.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go with probably Keaton because that was the first one I was introduced to.
It's the first good one since the 60s.
Yeah.
The 60s destroyed Batman. Destroyed
Actually,
it.
it was a very popular TV show. It's just
I know, but it destroyed the image of him and he
Well,
became
yeah.
a joke.
that's what the 60s were.
It was a joke.
It was made for kids. Lance, who is your favorite hero and why?
Mr. Mixelplex.
Are you going to say something is to the mic? Because people can't see you. If you haven't noticed, there's no video cue or visuals that the audience can hear. So you have to
Bet he
say
Not
likes
something.
yet.
the Condiment King.
He likes the Marshmallow Man.
Jesus
From
fucking
Ghostbusters.
Christ, how much
That was a
silence
hero.
do you need?
Save the city.
What is it?
Mr. Silence.
I am playing fucking charades here. It's too late for that shit and I'm hungry. We ain't playing no goddamn charades.
Open your mouth.
I think, generally speaking, it's Superman.
Hey, he speaks. He used his words, and he said
need
the
to-
one hero that I think made all of our assholes pucker at this very moment. Why Superman?
2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
This is
We
horrible.
need to have a conversation.
We need an
because
intervention. I like
feel
Superman.
I feel like our marriage is now a sham.
I knew this
Ooh,
was going to
damn.
be a problem. That's
What?
why.
happened? I don't
What
know
hap-
you.
What happened?
I bet he's a big fan of the dark suit, long hair Superman too. He's giving me that look like he is.
Nicolas Cage?
No, well, yeah,
Superman?
the Return of Superman era of Superman.
I think it was just because I identified with the whole like farm town mentality of Superman because I grew up in that. And so some of the comics, like I had Spider-Man, I had X-Men, I had all those other things, but Superman was the one that it was like, hey, here's a farm boy out doing miraculous things. You too could be a farm boy.
You
out
too
doing
could be allergic to a rock.
miraculous.
Just a
Listen,
small town boy.
that doesn't necessarily. He was all about truth, justice, and the American way, despite not actually being from
Yeah,
He's
our
an illegal
world.
alien, literally.
I know it.
Mhm.
I know it.
Just remember, he doesn't know there's kryptonite in the room until Lex Luthor takes it out of his pocket, and then he suddenly goes, "Oh, I'm hurting." It's like it was still in the room with you, you dumb shit.
I realized the discrepancies in all of that. But the things he stood
It's his
for were
favorite
what
hero. Calm
resonated
down.
well with me.
I think we need to remind
I
ourselves.
kind of like that. I
that-
like that explanation of it because that I never really thought much of behind the, perfect image superhero.
Yeah, everybody has a lot of hangups about him, and I knew I was going to get some shit for it. That's why I stayed silent.
But I guess we need to remind ourselves there's no gate. We need to eliminate gatekeeping in comics so you can like
Exactly.
Superman.
You can like Superman.
Well, thank you for the permission to be myself. I don't give a shit.
You're welcome. But seriously, there's way worse characters out there but yeah, as far as
Modern-
mainstream goes,
Modern Superman is so much better than it used to be.
which is interesting because I remember growing up, Superman was way more popular than Batman.
I know,
And then Batman
I never
took him
understood
over.
that.
And then Batman took him over. And now Superman's kind of like what Batman was back then. Like, oh, you like Batman? Pfft. Now it's like, oh, you like Superman? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's interesting how that shift happened.
Well, because up until the death of Superman, Superman's arc was getting really good there in the early 90s. And then the death and rebirth of Superman basically shot that character in the foot.
I don't know.
And
I think
everything
it's-
that came after that was
I think
garbage.
it's more. I think it's more Nolan. Honestly, I think he brought a massive resurgence to Batman. Between that and the cartoon, you have a whole generation growing up on Batman now. I think that's what really did it. It was just one of those circumstantial things where
Yeah, the stuff with him now,
that
like
kind of happened.
I didn't mind Superman Returns. I'm probably the only one in the room that liked that movie. The Man of Steel stuff, the modern Superman movies and the modern
I think Amber
Superman
just
stories
found
are
Superman
good.
on lamest
No,
superheroes.
No, there's a character named Vibe.
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 That's awesome.
Appeared in
Vibe.
Justice League of America Annual number 2. He was breakdancing.
Nice.
So he's up there with Booster Gold for the worst superhero.
I'm just trying to find who are some people that Lance could have named that would have truly been worse.
If he would have said
Condiment
if he
King.
would have said Booster Gold, I would have come over this table and beaten the shit out of him.
Dr. Spectro looks pretty good.
There's plenty.
The Kryptonite Kid.
Oh.
What was his name?
Whizzer.
Whizzer. There you
Could
go.
have said Whizzer was your
Whizzer.
favorite.
Wow. This whole topic is Wizard, Annie.
Owen Wowson. Wow.
All right, get back to the favorite superhero. So yeah, I think it's pretty
Yeah. Did we ask?
solid choice. Reason
So
why.
did we ask Amber? She said
Mhm.
Batman,
Yeah, Batman.
of course.
Yeah, after saying not super fucking man.
Yeah, I know. That was really hilarious.
Wasn't it
That's
great?
why
It was
I
a
had
great lead up.
Yeah. So
Set you up right there.
He's had some good arcs, but him
rich.
normally.
Rich.
How
Hey,
about you,
what?
buddy?
Mine's more off the wall.
He likes Rick Grimes.
No, I actually hate Rick. I think he's kind of like Superman. He's boring because he always wins.
Is it Deadpool? I could totally say
no, fuck
Deadpool
Deadpool.
for you.
Deadpool? I like Deadpool originally, but now he's just so oversaturated. It's kind of like
That's how I feel about
over-
Harley.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these heroes now, I'm kind of becoming the fucking hipster and like,
Who defined your childhood?
who defined my childhood?
Batman.
A lot of shit.
X-Men.
No, I would say Captain America, but that's not my favorite. Rocket Raccoon.
Ooh.
Aw, Muffin.
No, because he's tragic.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. He's weird because he's a raccoon, but he's an alien. But people mistake him for a raccoon, so he gets pissed off about that. He
was
lived-
ripped apart and put back together
He was
so
ripped
many
apart,
times.
put back together, and experimented on. And he,
Basically, Rocket has the exact same storyline or origin storyline as Doomsday, only Rocket became a good guy.
essentially,
True.
The same storyline.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I found an interesting character because you didn't really see too many at that time besides Batman, like tragic heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like something tragic happens to me, but like everything about his life is like fuck. And it's like, damn, this guy's just powering through it. Good for him. And he's an interesting character because he's an anthropomorphic raccoon that's not a raccoon on a team with an alien, a tree, a human, and a deadly assassin. Yeah, I just found it, I don't know, just out there off the
And
wall.
he has the gall to date Lady Gaga too. My God.
He's not.
He's not
Bradley
dating her.
Cooper is not
They're
with her.
They're not dating.
Yet.
No, they're
Yet.
not going to.
Oh, it's going to happen.
No,
No.
It's going to happen.
That's called acting.
she could be. She could be.
Bradley has a kid with the actress he actually went to the Oscars with.
Oh, damn.
He's not going to hook up
Why
with
was he
Lady
with Bradley
Gaga.
Cooper?
Huh?
Oh,
Because he's Rocket.
because he's Rocket. Yeah, I keep forgetting that fact because you never see his face. But yeah. So yeah, no, Rocket is mine. I even just like you have the flask.
Yeah, I have the flask. Well,
With
mine's
Jean Grey.
different because my flask actually has 2 characters on it.
Oh yeah, Magneto.
Because I always flip flop between Magneto or Phoenix for my favorite characters. And Alex didn't know who to pick. So he found an issue of Phoenix fighting Magneto and said, there you go.
Yay.
I got a Rocket
And
one, so yeah.
and that's-
I've
got-
I was happy. So yeah, and you know, as much as I like Captain America, I think he's the most mainstream hero that I grew up with. But Rock is my favorite.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, that
So
yeah,
what do we got next?
I
Or are
think-
we pretty much done?
we're pretty much done. We're at a, you know,
Out of time.
We could quickly talk about how the mask is not the mask that everybody knows.
yeah.
A little fun fact.
I
Most
know.
people don't
Yeah. No. Well, 'cause-
know that the movie Jim Carrey was in, The Mask,
Is
was a comic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
And-
violent comic.
Yeah, the comic is nothing like the movie, and I would love to see a movie based on the comic, but it probably will never happen now because
Probably
we had one good movie and we had one absolute garbage movie that have destroyed the image of the mask.
That and the cartoon.
No,
Why don't
because
you create
some
it, Frank?
producers could be like, we need a redemption arc for this
gonna
story, and
reboot
they're
that
going to
fucking
do
thing.
it because
it's gonna happen.
don't worry, Hollywood can't come up with anything new.
Yeah, but I want a accurate version of Jurassic Park, and because of the 2 new movies, I'm not getting that either.
Well, I can tell you what is new and what happens, every week. We have something new to talk about. So unlike Hollywood, we are actually, I guess, kind of creative.
Kind of.
Kind of.
I've created a new smell. Would you like to discover it?
No, I would not.
It's a good thing there's not smell-o-vision
There's no
yet.
smell-o-vision yet. But yeah. So next week we are going to have a new topic, and that topic will be, drumroll please. Dun, dun, dun. Endgame.
Highlander Endgame?
No, Avengers Endgame.
Oh. Well, then I won't
Fuck
be here.
Highlander.
I mean, we could
I'm going to
do
come over there, motherfucker.
we
We're gonna play
could do a
chess.
Highlander episode for sure.
We could,
As long as
in
we
the
don't talk
future.
about the source, because the source sucked.
I watched the whole TV series. I watched all the movies.
Watch the cartoon.
I did not
They made
watch
a
the
cartoon?
cartoon.
Oh, yeah. It was like a one season cartoon, I think.
No shit.
Shit you learn. All right. Amber, have anything to say?
Just that I'm very, very sad.
About what?
The
Endgame.
Avengers.
Oh, Muffin.
How it's the end of the 22 movie run.
This is
But it's not, because Spider-Man's the
ending.
epilogue, so everybody does a happy dance.
It's the epilogue.
The
Spider-Man.
ending of a story.
So basically, Spider-Man
ending.
is like the last half hour to 45 minutes of Return of the King.
Essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. Beyond that, though, we do want to let you guys know we have started our Twitch streaming.
Yes.
We've had Frag Guy going absolutely insane, playing Doom, and now recently Phantom Menace.
Yep. God damn, Phantom Menace is a lot rougher than I remembered it.
Now, I will say that by the time you hear this, that
It'll be
series will
done.
be long done.
Both of them are long done.
And you will likely see myself
Mhm.
and Rich and Amber, Rocket Girl, playing on our different games, and hopefully Fry's schedule will open up by then, and we'll have an actual posted schedule for our live streams.
Yep.
And you can join us.
Actually, by now, yeah. Pre-recorded, we'll definitely have it up.
Twitch TV /N3RD _ HEARD.
Because apparently the other one was taken.
Yeah, with the F.
I don't know why. It's bullshit, but yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week. So on that,
I guess we'll
Nerd
see you
Herd
guys next
out.
week. Yeah, bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye bye bye.
Okay.
Yeah.